So today we're talking about how God speaks to us through our circumstances, And I tell you, this is a wonderful topic because even though God speaks to us through our dreams, God speaks to us the majority of time through his word. The second, if I were to put anything second, like the second way that God speaks to us, I would choose through our circumstances. And I will tell you this is the main way God speaks, other than through his word, other than through his prophets, other than through dreams and visions and other ways that he speaks. We miss it, you guys, when God speaks to us through our circumstances. And I just had to sit back and think about it when I was on the trail talking to God this morning, because I said, Father, this is amazing, because this is one of the major ways you speak to us. And we miss it. So I do want to take the time to start talking about this conversation tonight. I definitely know I need at least another night to really go through the scriptures and show you how God speaks through circumstances. Now, what are circumstances? Circumstances are conditions or facts that affect a situation. They affect a situation. They can be positive or they can be negative. So if they are conditions or facts that control a situation, or they affect a situation, then I guess the next thing would be then, of course, what is a situation? So when you look up the definition of what is a situation, let me read it to you in your hearing. So a situation now how did it pop up and give me that? I'm sorry, you guys. A situation is relating to or dependent on a set of circumstances or a state of affairs. So if it's relating to or dependent on the state of affairs, what is that? What is the state of affairs? It's really, to me, the situation is something that's affecting your life. And you are just going to have to pay attention to the factors in your life, things that are happening in your life all around you that you're not even paying attention to. And yet God is speaking. And I mean, it's relating to your surroundings. It's relating to your location. And the situations and circumstances, or circumstances interchangeably, they deal with things that you can control. And they also deal with things that you cannot control. When you're talking about situations, it's things that you can control, and it's also things that you cannot control. This is what we mean by situations. One thing that I want to say about situations is that God will use these circumstances to get you in position to hear his voice. He will use them, and he does use situations and or circumstances, which are supposed to be situations are supposed to be a set of circumstances. I think it should be flipped back around myself. But the bottom line is, whether you're dealing with a condition or not, whatever condition or fact that you're dealing with that affects your life, that affects you, that surrounds you, whether you can control it or not control it, God will use that to speak to you. That's what I'm saying. He will use it. And what happens is, when facts creep up, or when circumstances creep up in our lives that we cannot control, or even when the ones that we can control, we don't go to God. We're not trained to go to God and say, what's going on here? I was telling somebody the other day that my season had changed. Well, how do you know that your season has changed? Well, when you really pay attention to your life, because this is what I'm talking about, being able to listen to your life and what's going on around you, you see things that have not been happening, all of a sudden they're happening. When you see things change like that, you realize you're in a new season. Now, I went through a season where I wasn't making any new friends. I was grieving. That was my old season. I was grieving the death of my husband for about 3.5, 4 years, right? And I wasn't meeting anybody new. I wasn't talking to anybody. I was more or less just at home doing ministry or whatever. So then when you see God sending new people, new friends, new situations in your life, you're like, wait a minute. Me, a person like me, it's like, wow, my grieving season is over. I'm in a new season. I'm more aware and alert of what's going on around me. Now, when things happen to you and doors close or either doors open for you, that's God. We're going to talk about Esther tonight. We're going to go there first, and then we're going to look at Samson. When Esther, remember when they told her that she was going to have to go before the king, and he may or may not let her come forward, and she could stand the chance of losing her life. The famous statement, if I perish, let me perish because I'm going to see the king. That's a circumstance that was happening because guess what? She fasted. We're going to look at it in a minute. For 3 days and had Mordecai fast. Her maidens fasted with her. And then she went forward to see the king. Well, how did we know that God was speaking to her in that circumstance? Favor. The king holds out the scepter and lets her come forward. That's favor. Now, I have to talk about favor because favor comes from God. And every time I pray a prayer, if I'm going through a door, if I'm doing something different, if something's happening with me and I got somewhere to go, I got an interview, I got to meet somebody, it's something that I need to happen. My prayer, even when I'm praying for you guys, is favor goes before me, what? To prosper my way. And I always tell people when the favor goes, I'm out. I go. If I'm in a job and I have all this favor, I came on this job, when I notice things around me. I notice how people treat me. I notice how the doors are open. They're giving the grace between me and them. We get along. When things start getting shaky sometimes, you got to go to God and say, wait a minute, is my season lifting for me to be at this job? Is it time for me to leave? Because when the favor goes, most of the time, it's time for you to shift on out of there. It's time for you to go. But we're not taught. We don't teach you that. I'm not saying every little circumstance that you come up against, it may be warfare, but it may just be God shifting some stuff up because it's time for you to leave. And we don't teach you that God speaks through circumstances. And one of the ways he speaks is through favor. The other thing that we're going to touch on either tonight or tomorrow night is open and closed doors in your life. Doors are opportunities. Doors can be people. And you have to realize that God is speaking to you when he brings that opportunity. Now, I caution you because every opportunity is not for you. Every opportunity is not your opportunity. So this is why you have to be mindful of your life. Pay attention to your life. Pay attention. Pay attention. And so let's go to the book of Esther first tonight, because I really want to show you how God speaks through circumstances. You're never going to see God speak to the prophet or to Mordecai or anybody in the book of Esther, but his hand, and he's moving things all throughout that book. From the beginning of her even being chosen to go into the palace, to the person who grooms her and gets her ready to go before the king, she has favor, And one of the main ways God speaks to us is through favor. Favor. And I need you to hear me, because some of you are missing it. Some of you are calling good evil and evil good because you don't know how to discern. When situations happen, instead of you going to God saying, wait a minute, God, what just happened here? We was doing so good, and then I just got in this argument with this person that I really like. We've been friends for years. What's going on? Instead of you, and here you go trying to process it. You talking on the phone, and this one talking on the phone. Now, go to God. Go to God and say, is this relationship over? Is this you? Should I fight for this relationship? But something's happening, right? Because the grace to be with that person is lifted, and you miss it. And you trying to figure it out. Just go to God. He'll tell you, I'm moving them for a season. They'll be back. He could say, I'm moving them, I'm shifting them. They no longer have that front row seat in your life. I need you to shift. I need you to shift with me. I'm doing a new thing. Will you perceive it? I'm trying to get something to you. But you try to hold on to people that you know the grace done lifted. You know full well it is not like it was. You know full well they're not trying to grow. They're not trying to stretch. And if people are not adding value to your life, you need to go to God. Where do these people fit? And so with circumstances and situations, conditions that affect your life, you have got to learn how to pay attention to your life. Your life. See, we so busy paying attention to other people's lives, what they're doing or not doing, we are missing important clues that God has given us about what he's doing with us. Missing it. And one of the ways that he does it through grace. We'll talk about grace tomorrow, but he does it through favor. 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 Now you think about what the word favor, we're going to Esther. So favor, the definition is approval, support, or liking. Somebody likes you, liking for someone or something. So you get around people and they like you, you feeling the love, you feeling like, you know what, this is going to be a good fit for me. That's God speaking through that grace and favor that he's got on your life. Now, when things start getting shaky because he wants to move you, he wants to mature you, he wants to grow you, now you complaining. And the best way that God can grow you up is through you being around people. People are doors. People. And so I need you to understand that you need to, at some point in this walk with God, and especially when you're talking about hearing from God and God speaking, I'm going to say second to me is he speaks to your circumstances. He gives you unction sometimes. I told you guys the time that God had me jump in my car and go, and then I ended up catching up with the mail truck and, getting what I needed from him, the information that I needed. Sometimes you just find yourself moving. And Proverbs 3:6, remember, that's one of your main scriptures for this section. He says, trust in the Lord with all thine heart. And what? Lean not to your own understanding. In all your ways, acknowledge him. And what will happen? He will direct your path. And so God sometimes directs you. We're going to talk about that tomorrow night when he directed Israel. He said, I had a cloud, a fire. I had something guiding you the whole time. And guess what? God said, I went before you. And you still didn't believe me. And so a lot of times we miss God and how he's speaking to us through our circumstances. And you got to pay attention. You got to pay attention. So when we turn to the book of Esther, in Esther, just starting with chapter 1, it says, now it came to pass, this is Esther 1:1. In the days of Ahasuerus, this was the Ahasuerus who reigned over 127 provinces from India to Ethiopia. In those days when King Ahasuerus sat on the throne of his kingdom, which was in Shushan, the citadel, that in the 3rd year of his reign, he made a feast for all his officials and servants, the powers of Persia and Media, the nobles and the princes and the provinces being before him, when he showed the riches of his glorious kingdom and the splendor of his excellent majesty for many days, 180 days in all. That sets the scene right there that you would say, this is a good season for the king. He's over 127 provinces. And then to tell me that that man can give a feast and the feast can last for 180 days. And when these days were completed, verse 5, the king made a feast lasting 7 days for all the people who were present in Shushan, the citadel, from great to small in the court of the garden. So you see that here, you see with the circumstances, this is a very generous king. And now he throws a party for the little people. Yeah. And so when you skip down to verse 7, it says, and they served drinks in golden vessels, each vessel being different from the other, with royal wine in abundance according to the generosity of the king. It shows you how vast this man's kingdom is, how rich he is, how obviously this man is blessed. And not only is he blessed, he's not stingy. He's being a blessing to people in his kingdom. So it sets the stage to say what's happening. Now, when we're in our own lives and we see things going well, all your bills are paid, you're not behind on anything, you even have enough to be generous and give to the church and give to other people who need it, we miss it because we don't go to God and say, Lord, I see the season that I'm in. Should I be preparing for the next season? Is this season going to last? How long am I going to be this? Do I need to be storing up something? You know, we talked about Joseph the other day where the Pharaoh had that dream about the cows and how it showed that there was a famine coming right after the 7 years of plenty. But we don't think to ask God. But his thoughts are high above our thoughts. His ways high above our ways. He says, I know the plans that I have for you in Jeremiah 29:11. Plans to prosper you, to give you an expected end, plans of good and not of evil. So if that is not happening in your life, the good, you're not experiencing the good, you're not experiencing the overflow, things are blocked. You need to go to God and say, wait a minute now. Now, I know I'm supposed to be the head and not the tail. I know that Deuteronomy 28 says I'm supposed to be above and not beneath. If I'm serving you, then that means something is going on. Now, we're going to talk about that tomorrow because we're going to look at Joshua when they got their butts kicked by AI because they were in sin. So when you are not flourishing, something is not right. And we miss it. You just struggle. I'm praying about it. Somebody pray for me, but you're not going to God saying, why is this like this? You're missing something. You're missing how God's speaking to you in your circumstances. Yeah. Even if I go outside and my car does not start. Now I think to myself, me being me. Now let me think about this thing. Did I ask God, could I go where I'm trying to go? Now, see, you just trying to get the mechanic and trying to get somebody to start your car. Me, I'm a little bit more discerning. Wasn't nothing wrong with this car before. I just used this car. And now I'm fixing it. And sometimes I have to, even when I can't find my keys, sometimes I don't even make it to the car. Now, am I supposed to be going somewhere right now? Are you delaying me? What's going on? Do I have some order? You don't even pay attention to your surroundings. If your house is a mess and your car is a mess, you can't find nothing. Now, you know full well, we just operate like that. But God is speaking to you based on your surroundings. Something is going on with you. You need to get some things in order. Now, he'll bring a prophet to talk to you. He'll bring somebody else to say something to you. He'll give you a dream about getting in order and how he's getting ready to catapult you into greatness. But first, before any of that, you can just look around you right now where you're sitting at. And you can look and say, okay, yeah, I need to clean up my desk. Or yeah, my closet is a mess. Or yes, I'm, and God is speaking to you, because just like it's disorder around you, it's disorder in your life. You are out of order. And your surroundings reflect what is going on with you, just like this king. And you ain't got to wait for no word if you know how to read your surroundings. My stuff has gotten out of order. I need to take the time to clean out my car. Y'all don't want to hear sound teaching, but I'm going to teach it. I need to take the time to get my clothes together, wash my clothes, put them up, do what I need to do. I can't find nothing in my house. Why is that? Your surroundings are speaking very loud to you that something is going on with you. All right, I'm going to move on. So we know the story how he sent for Queen Vashti in verse 12, and she would not come. Okay. And so he got rid of Vashti. What did Vashti not coming show the king and the wise people? In the circumstances of her refusing to come to the king, it showed him that he did not have favor with his wife. It showed him rebellion. Her refusal to come before the king. In verse 12, it says he sent for her in 11 and told them to go bring her. But in verse 12, but Queen Vashti refused to come. Yeah. At the king's command. That's good. Therefore, the king was furious and his anger burned within him. That's a sign right there when somebody's angry. What is going on? What did you say? What did you do? See, we want to play the victim. Now God got to send a prophet to you and tell you that even though you said what you said, and it might have been true, but sometimes you can say the right thing the wrong way. And sometimes you can say it the wrong way. You're going to make people angry, even though you may be right. The Bible says to speak the truth in love. You ain't speaking it in love. You speaking it in judgment. And now you're the victim. Because now you like, oh, that person just, wait a minute, but what did you say? What did you do? And so when it just hit the fan and everybody is mad and now they're not speaking and whatever. I'm still in the book. When they get mad and they get angry or they act out, now you already know they're going to act out. But you, the believer, you, the mature person, you have got to learn to speak a word in season, in God's timing. Now, this woman, it was her refusal to come to her king, even though she was a queen having her own banquet, everything still belonged to the king. And in her refusal to come, it showed rebellion, it showed disrespect, and it let the king know she is not respecting me. She's dishonoring me. Well, we do it to other people, we do it to our spouses, and then you wonder why they blow up. And you have everybody thinking you're the victim. You got to watch your circumstances. You got to watch your mouth. You got to watch what you speak when the circumstances show up. You got to learn how to listen to your life. Vashti, she messed up. And you know how she messed up? Because when she dishonored him, God allowed the king to get rid of her. She was no longer queen. So when you see people sit down or being sat down, whether in a church, whether in a family, look for the spirit of rebellion. It's there. God speaking through your circumstances. Yeah. And especially when you have a leadership role and people are watching you, like Vashti, they said, no, we have to make an example out of her, because other people's wives, they gonna see how she acted with the king, and they're not gonna come to their husbands either when they call them. They gonna say, look at what Queen Vashti did to the king. So sometimes your actions are so egregious that the job has to fire you. Now you're gonna play victim, because you have not been taught to look at your circumstances. But if you keep going from job to job to job, it got to be you. And something God is trying to teach you. You see? Now, yes, we have some situations out there that are unfair. Sometimes God will shake stuff up, because if he don't move stuff and make it sticky and hard for you, you will never move. You will never go back to school and get that degree. You will never move to that new house that he has for you. You will never read your word. You will never pray like you're praying right now, because guess what? You are not heeding your circumstances. So God will use those circumstances to move you into the right position. Now, you don't like it. I understand. But let patience have its perfect work, because God is trying to mature you. So in steps little Esther, we know about it, right? They decide that they're going to go get some women and they're going to find the king a new queen. And what happens? Mordecai has raised up little Esther, and he ends up going and choosing women from all over. And Esther gets chosen. Say favor. Favor. That's right. And so it was that Mordecai had took her in as his own daughter. Y'all know the story. And in verse 8 of Esther 2:8, so it was when the king's command and decree were heard, and when many young women were gathered at Shushan, the citadel, under the custody of Haggai, that Esther also was taken to the king's palace, into the care of Haggai at the custodian of the women. So one thing that I need to remind you, that God said, if you acknowledge him in all your ways, he will direct your path. So when you see things happening, people being laid off the job, people being cut their hours, and then if you get chosen too, make no mistake about it, God knew. I have heard testimonies of people on jobs and they laying out massive people, and the Christian does not lose their job. In fact, they stay and get a promotion. You got to trust God. Trust in the Lord in all your ways, in your circumstances, in your conditions, in your situations. Trust in the Lord. You get so anxious and react. I told y'all need to learn how to respond. That means when it happens, when the circumstance happens, you need to go to God and say, what is this? Is this you? Do I have anything to worry about here? Okay, then go to sleep. The umpire piece is going to let you know either way. Because when you get that uneasy feeling, when the circumstance, when the stuff goes down, you already know that Holy Spirit is saying, no, not that door. No, not that one either. No, I'm closing that one too. Now you got to go back, right? Because now you want to know, why didn't I get in law school? My LSAT score wasn't high enough. Well, you thought God didn't know that the LSAT score wasn't going to be high enough? Now, if you're supposed to be an attorney, guess what? You're going to be an attorney. You got to trust God. LSAT or no LSAT. But the LSAT scores could say, did you ask God to go to law school? Because he could be saying, no, you ain't even asked me. That ain't even got nothing to do with what I called you to do. No, you ain't going there. But you guys get so all bent out of shape when circumstances hit because you don't know how to go to your God and trust him. That if that door doesn't open, it wasn't supposed to open. If the door closes, the season for that door to be open is over. Trust God through those circumstances. Now you all been out of shape because you don't know nothing about trusting him in these ways, in your circumstances, in your conditions. So now God got to send the prophet to you and tell you, I closed that door. I severed that friendship. That person was not going to get you where you need to go. I did it. But before that happened, the circumstance was right in your face. You knew y'all wasn't talking on the same level. You knew the relationship was not the same. You saw the grace lifting. They was getting on your last nerves. You was getting on theirs. Circumstances. I truly believe that other than the word of God, before anything else, before the dreams, before the visions, before any of the ways that Father speaks to us, he speaks through our circumstances. And we have just not taught you how to read your life. Your life. Listen to your life. Look around you and see what is going on. You see? And so Esther comes to the palace like everybody else. He's chosen her, but she's with everybody else. So how does God show you that he is in the decision that you're making? Favor. When you read about John the Baptist, when you read about Jesus, when you read about other prophets, you're going to see, and I'll show you, where it'll say the person grew in favor with God and man. Because you need both to do what God called you to do. He's not going to put you in a situation where you got to fight all the time. That is not true. God is going to give you some rest, but to get you in the door most of the time, God will use favor in your circumstances. They'll like you. Everybody in the interview will like you. They'll vote for you. They don't even know why. Favor. Favor. Better than silver and gold, the Bible says. Favor. And that is one of the major ways God speaks to us, is through favor in those circumstances, wherever he placed you. Whether it was a situation, whether it was an open door, whether it was an opportunity, God will give the favor. He will send the favor before you get there. It's there. They've heard about you. They've heard your name. Your name is in the wind, and God is opening that door of opportunity for you. So in Esther chapter 2, verse 9, it says, now the young woman pleased him, talking about Haggai, who's over all the women, and she obtained his favor. That's what she did. So he readily gave beauty preparations to her besides her normal allowance. That's what happens with us. You get more. You get favor. People give you things. They bless you. It's favor from God. So he's showing you. So what do you think the sign is when the favor is not there? Huh? That means God is not really, probably you're not supposed to be there. But for some reason, you forced your way, forced his hand, begged him for it, whatever, and now all hell is breaking loose because you're not supposed to be there. Sometimes he puts you there to train you, because you get trained not by when you at the house by yourself. You get trained in relationships, people. Yeah. But soon as something happens, when God has placed you on that job, placed you in that church, placed you in that leadership role, placed you in that relationship, you don't know how to act. Either you forget that he did it, or you forget that you're supposed to be happy about it, because now you're complaining about the same door you wanted him to open. Because you don't realize you're there not for the money, not for you to say, oh, I got this big position. You are there for souls. You are a plant sent by God, planted in that place for souls. You're always in the army. You have to beware of your conversation. You are not like everybody else, but we don't train you that you don't go for a job for money. We go to a job for souls. So when you get there, you're in training. You're supposed to, when you get there, you're supposed to find out what souls are attached to my life. But instead, you're trying to make friends. You're trying to be like them. You're trying to do what they do. You're talking like that. You're different. So God now got to shake some stuff up to get you to see this is not why you're here. You're on assignment. Your circumstances. And sometimes the way he does it to get your attention, to drive you back in your closet because you forgot why he sent you there, or nobody ever told you why you were sent there. He lifts the favor. And now you feel it because you out of order. You running your mouth just like they are. You're sinning just like they are. You're gossiping just like they are. And God is like, no, I did not send you to that place for that. I sent you to be wise as a serpent, harmless as a dove, give a word in season. You're supposed to be different. Oh, everybody is against me on my job. Really? No, you out of order. That's all that is. And God is trying to shake that up to get you back to him so he can give you instructions. You are on assignment, Captain. You are on assignment, Private. You're not there to make friends. So Esther was there as a plant, by the way. She was planted in that palace by God. And how we know God's hand was on her is because she was walking in favor. Everybody liked her. And Mordecai told her, do not reveal to them who you are. Now, I can teach on that for the rest of this whole thing. Because you get in there and run your mouth. They don't need to know. Sometimes you just need to be quiet. Now, she did not reveal who she was. She was different. She was a plant. And then, as it played out, once she learned and went through everything everybody else do. Why do you think you're so important? You need to go through the training just like everybody else. She went through the training like all the other women. And then when it was her time to go before the king, what happened in verse 17? No, back up to 15. Now, when the turn came for Esther, it was her turn. The daughter of Abihail, the uncle of Mordecai, who had taken her as his daughter to go into the king, she requested nothing but what Hagar, the king's eunuch, the custodian of the women, advised. And Esther obtained favor in the sight of all who saw her. You see that? She obtained favor in the sight of all who saw her. So why is everybody coming against you at your job, or coming against you at your church, or coming at you wherever God placed you? Probably because you have revealed yourself too soon. So Esther was taken to the king, into his royal palace. Her position has changed. You see that? She's getting ready to be promoted. That's what favor will do for you. And in verse 17, the king loved Esther more than all the other women. Yeah. And guess what? She obtained grace and favor in his sight more than all the virgins. Grace that gives people, grace makes people want to be around you. And favor more than all the virgins. So he set the royal crown upon her head and made her queen instead of Vashti. That's what he did. But we miss it because we don't understand what time it is. And I'm trying to get you to see, look around your life. Where is the favor? Even people in your life that have a front row seat. Do you have grace? Are they supposed to be in that front row seat? Are they helping or hurting? Where is the favor? Why they get to speak into your life? Right? You got to deal with people who celebrate you, not tolerate you. Yeah, think about it. Because it's showing you where you are. Based on the treatment, she knew she had favor. Now we know the story of how she got ready, like I said, to go before the king. Right? And she says to them, what? I need y'all to fast. I need y'all to fast. Mordecai is telling me I got to go before the king. And maybe this is the whole reason. Yes, the whole reason she was there, just like Joseph, to save her people. She was on a mission. She was on an assignment. It hadn't even been revealed to her. But guess what? The circumstances and her obedience to Mordecai by not revealing herself too soon, she was right in place. Some of us, because we have not taught you why you even are in the position or the place in the first place, you reveal yourself too soon, and now you are a target. Everybody's coming after you. You wondering, why am I fighting so much on my job? Because first of all, you don't know how to keep your mouth closed. Yeah. And so in Esther, right? Mordecai tells her, I need you to go and tell the king that Haman has set up a plan to wipe out your people. Right? Yeah. And so she makes the statement because Mordecai tells her, He tells her, you got to go do this thing. I know you thought you was there just to be a queen, but you're not there just to be a queen. I know you have favor with the king. You got to trust God now, because the situation is getting a little sticky, a little tight. So when Mordecai gets to Esther, shows the decree where they can destroy the Jews. Yeah. She tells Mordecai, listen, I can't go unless he holds out that scepter. I'm talking about situations and circumstances. I cannot go unless the king holds out the scepter to me. Verse 11, Esther chapter 4, verse 11. All the king's servants and the people of the king's provinces know that any man or woman who goes into the inner court to the king who has not been called, he has but one law: put all to death, except the one to whom the king holds out the golden scepter, that he may live. Yet I myself have not been called to go into the king for 30 days. Even me. Now the king got a whole harem that he can call one and call another one, and then he may not see that next one for a whole nother year. She said, even I, as favored as I am, and I am the queen, I got the royal thing, the crown on my head. I haven't even seen him for 30 days. So in her mind, the favor has lifted, y'all. This is a choice, a chance that she has to take, because if you're looking at her circumstances, for 30 days, the man ain't even called for me, and I'm the queen. That's why you can see the risk, but this is why you got to do Proverbs 3:6 and acknowledge him in all your ways. Now you're going to see what she does. She's going to go on a fast so she can seek God. Why can't we do that? So they told Mordecai Esther's words, and Mordecai told them to answer Esther, do not think in your heart that you will escape in the king's palace any more than all the other Jews. For if you remain completely silent at this time, relief and deliverance will arise for the Jews from another place. But you and your father's house will perish. Yet who knows whether you have come to the kingdom for such a time as this? Listen to me clearly. When God puts you anywhere on this platform, wherever your role is in your family, whatever your relationship role is, he has you there to make a change. Not that things will stay the same. You being there should be making it better. Yeah. You're not just there taking up space. He's saying, Esther, if you don't do this, God gonna work it out, but you gonna perish. And who knows if this is not your assignment. So Esther said to him, we know the famous thing, go gather all the Jews who are present. This is Esther chapter 4, verse 16. Go gather all the Jews who are present in Shushan and fast for me. Now I told you fasting is a way of seeking God. Yeah. And God said, if you seek me with your whole heart, you will be found by me. You will find me. And a lot of times when things are out of control, or you think your back is up on the wall, you need to fast. You don't need no word from nobody but God. I told you the only time he probably sends other people is because you ain't reading your word. So he can't get to you through that. You are missing the circumstances. He sends you a dream, you miss it. It goes right over your head. He got other people and you hear them talking, and that you may miss that. And so you have got to learn how God speaks so many ways to tell you the same thing. But truly, he speaks through your surroundings, your circumstances, what is going on in your life right now. So she says, neither eat nor drink for 3 days, night or day. My maids and I will fast likewise. This is an absolute fast. They can't eat nothing. They can't drink nothing. They're meaning business with God. This is the best fast I can ever recommend. If you can do it, I'm telling you, it will change your life. So she says, my maids and I will fast likewise. And so I will go to the king, which is against the law. You see that? It's against the law because he hadn't called her. And sometimes you cannot be silent. God has you there to speak up. And here you go, the time you need to speak up. You sitting still and silent like everybody else. And you know full well that it's wrong, whatever it is. And you won't speak up. But she says, and if I perish, I perish. So Mordecai went his way. And you know, now it happened, chapter 5, verse 1. On the third day that Esther put on her royal robes and stood in the inner court of the king's palace, across from the king's house, while the king sat on his royal throne in the royal house, facing the entrance of the house. So he could see her. But she's outside in the inner court. She's not in where he is with that throne, sitting on that throne. So it was when the king saw Queen Esther standing in the court, listen, that she found what? Favor in his sight. And the king held out to Esther the golden scepter that was in his hand. Then Esther went near and touched the top of the scepter. I'm talking about your circumstances tonight. I'm telling you that you've got to learn to pay attention. Don't get all freaked out. Go to God. Ask him, why did they do this? What does this mean? I mean, you miss all these signs that God sends you and sends your way. It just go over your head because you're not paying attention to your own life. So we're going to go deeper tomorrow because I want to talk about the doors that God opens and closes doors. I want to go a little bit deeper. Amen, somebody.